Hi there guys, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host Simon Conboy. Today's episode is another game preview. Today I'll be focusing on the matchup with the 2-2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers heading to Arizona to take on the 2-3 Cardinals, who last year put an absolute beatdown on the Buccaneers in this stadium. And week 2, still not entirely over it. As always, I'll be going through my projected game plan for each teams, how I think the matchups generally look on both sides of the ball, and highlighting how I think the game ends up going. Not too much focus on stats here. There's plenty of good stuff all over the interwebs if that's what you're after. So I'm going to start with the matchup between the Arizona offense and the Buccaneers defense, because frankly I think it's the most significant aspect of this game. At the minute, the Cardinals have one of the worst offensive lines in all of football. They've been struggling to pass protect at both the tackle position and on the interior. They miss Mike Patty desperately. DJ Humphries, who I don't think has had a good career to this point, but they've been worse without him. Jared Valdez not playing well after being injured last season. It's a mess. They can't protect Palmer worth a lick, as has been much publicised. It's been the case for years. Bruce Arians does not like leaving in too many guys to block, and with a line like this, it's been punishing them. They can't run the ball. They're ranked last in the league running. Of course, David Johnson being missing has been a significant factor in that. And there's Adrian Peterson there now. However, I'm not expecting too much from him. Even a runner that's in his prime with a lot of talent is not going to have huge success behind this line, and Peterson certainly looks like he's a player well into the downswing of his career, if the few carries we've seen from him in the last 2 seasons have shown us. At receiver, this group is fairly middling at best. Have struggled getting open. John Brown been unable to stay healthy and really put a stretch of games together. He's certainly got talent. It's just, if you're not on the field, you can't help your team. JJ Nelson's just a speedster who drops some passes. Larry Fitzgerald is still a high-end possession receiver, but he's not the game-breaking threat that he was a few years ago. And Jermaine Gresham is, to me, just a guy at the tight end position. They can get some help from Andre Ellington out of the backfield in that regard, but it's not really something Arians likes to do enormously. And this week they're playing against a Tampa defense that should, after an extended layoff after the Thursday night game, be a little bit healthier than they've been in a while. Quan Alexander and Levante David, either one or both, could return from injury to play in this game. That would be huge for them. TJ Ward might be back, Heath Tandy might be back, which would give the team a lot more depth and overall quality at the safety position. So that's a real positive on the Buccaneers end. Defensively, the line's played a lot better the last couple of weeks. Gerald McCoy is having a dominating season in the middle. The sack numbers haven't been there, getting his first one only last week, but he has been absolutely superb, generating a ton of pressure up the middle, busting up several run plays in the backfield. He is playing as well as anybody in the defensive interior right now, having one of the best starts to a season he's had. Chris Baker's been solid alongside him. The Bucs have been tough to run on as a result, primarily I think because of these two's play. And as mentioned, the defensive ends in Golston and Ayers are both really good against the run as well. Ayers has played really well the last couple of weeks. Not quite got the closing speed to put up big sack numbers, but he's been winning his matchups on the outside, and he's been playing the run very well as well. And Noah Spence is a speed rush threat. He's not got consistent pressure, but he'll make a couple of plays in a game. At the linebacker spot, we'll see who's back. Kendall Beckwith has been pretty stellar though as a rookie for this team. He's obviously had more opportunities to see the field, with Quan and Levante being out. If they're both back, this group looks absolutely fantastic on paper. The issues you get are in the secondary. Brent Grimes has been great. Hargraves has a lot of the same issues that he had as a rookie, showing doesn't look enormously quick to process information at the minute. I think that's a factor in why he sort of sits off players so much. He just needs to play with more confidence and aggression. He's not getting beat badly on plays, but he's giving up stuff underneath far too easily. And not a lot of depth beyond that. Robert McLean, Josh Robinson, these are just guys, frankly, at the position. It would really help the Bucs if one of those guys could step up, maybe push Hargreaves a little on the outside. And the safety position, depending who's healthy, I don't think they'll be enormously challenged this week as much as the Cardinals like to go deep. The Bucs have been playing very, very deep safeties this year, as a lot of teams have, and they'll play a lot of zone. I think those guys won't be relied on to be particularly involved with the run game, I feel, and I think they'll be able to just sit deep. And I'm not sure, unless Nelson gets loose over the top, they're going to be particularly challenged in this one. But the secondary is, of course, the concern. If you're the Cardinals, I'm not sure how you can attack teams at the moment. This line is that bad that this offense is just incredibly limited. Carson Palmer has not been terrible this year, as some might have you believe. He's not getting a lot of help there, and I think this matchup is horrible for them. The Buccaneers defensive line playing pretty well the last 2 weeks. I don't see how they're going to stop Gerald McCoy. They're going to have to commit numbers to him, and I think the guys on the outside will be able to win one-on-one matchups. I'm expecting a ton of pressure. I also cannot see this Cardinals team being able to generate a run game. If those linebackers are in there, it's going to be really ugly. I think that attempting to run the ball, so it's going to fall on this group to be able to attack down the field. And I just feel like the pressure is going to be in Palmer's face all game, particularly with the interior pressure. I think it's going to cause significant problems. And of course, Palmer is just not mobile. If Arians makes some adjustments and tries to keep some guys in there, then they may have a shot. I think you can beat this Buccaneers team deep. The Vikings showed that, but I just don't know if the opportunities will be there. Fitzgerald's going to have a huge game. He's going to have to be a big focus of the game plan. I think if they can get him outside on Hargreaves, they can get some opportunities there, get him over the middle of the field in some nice one-on-one situations. Then rely on his yards after the catch, that can happen. I think they're going to have to attack the Buccaneers horizontally. Like the Patriots did, they're just going to have to hope to break some plays as a result, because I do not expect the Buccaneers to change their game plan significantly from what they've been doing all year, particularly with the confidence I'm sure they'll have that the front four is going to be able to get home this week. You're going to see a lot of deep zones, maybe a little bit of manning up in the slot, but I'm not sure we'll see a huge amount of that. Gresham could in theory be a factor. Buccaneers, if Quan and Levante are missing, are pretty soft to the tight end position, even though there were no tight end catches last week. You can certainly have a lot of success over the middle of the field. It's just I think the weakness is on the outside. Other than Grimes, I think they should avoid him at all costs. I'm not sure there's anyone that's going to be able to challenge him unless they've got a healthy John Brown out of nowhere over the top. So I just feel like this matchup is going to be very difficult for the Cardinals at this point in time with the talent the Bucs have. If the Bucs are healthy, I think they're going to do a really effective job just shutting the Cardinals offense down, getting some big plays in terms of pressure on Palmer. They're going to have to protect the ball. They're going to have to try. I just think they've got to execute what the Patriots did last week just to try and help this protection. It's so counterintuitive to what Bruce Arians wants to do. But I think it's their only real option to try and have any sustained success. They're going to have to try and run the ball. Their defense has just been gassed towards the end of games recently. Time of possession's not been on their side as a result. A lot of free and outs. They're going to have to try and have prolonged drives, I think, shorten this game. Otherwise, there's going to be some trouble, and they're going to have to take some shots and just hope the line can hold up. But I can't foresee much success for them offensively. On the other side of the ball, we look at this Buccaneers offense. They've been less productive than many would have suspected, and certainly I would have liked. However, there are some positives. The offensive line's playing much better. Adam Humphries has really started to blossom as the number 3 receiver, I think. And Cameron Brate has become a real weapon. Mainly in that Mike Evans, there's guys around him now, and we're starting to see that. Those two have progressed. Deshaun Jackson offers a legitimate threat on the outside, and you've still got OJ Howard and Chris Godwin is there as rookies. Doug Martin's back in the backfield, so they've got some depth and quality there. Jaquiz Rogers is a fine backup. Charles Sims, he's got his role in this offense as the designated pass catcher, and if Doug Martin looks as good as he did last week, then he could be primed for a really good stretch of games this season. Could have a lot of success. And Jameis Winston's been a bit inconsistent. He blows very hot and cold. If he can find a way to not have these long stretches of difficulty, I suppose, moving the ball, and then this offense can really get going. The O-line has performed better than I would have anticipated. DeMar Dotson's having a really good year at right tackle. Donovan Smith's played a lot better the last couple of weeks, and the interior has been okay. Moving to the Cardinals side of things, there's some issues starting to pop up here. They've had a couple of injuries, and Nkemdiche's been hurt at times. Losing Marcus Golden as their second pass rushers really hurt them. They weren't able to generate any pressure last week. So as a result, the front seven doesn't look great. I've enjoyed watching Hassan Reddick. I think he's playing pretty well as a young player. Chandler Jones is a threat, but I just don't feel like there's enough else in this front seven at this point in time to put a lot of heat on guys. And you can certainly, I think, get at them in coverage. The defence back position, Tyrann Mathieu's been started the season well, but I think he's looked a bit dinged up the last coming out. I don't know, just not looking himself. Patrick Peterson's had a great start to the year. Thoroughly expect to see him being avoided in this one. He'll probably be shadowing Mike Evans for the entire game. Jameis will give Evans some shots, but Peterson's having a stellar year. And the other safeties, the rest of the secondary's not been terrible at times. They're having issues at corner again, beyond Peterson. But Tyvon Branch has played pretty darned well in the secondary. He's been fantastic against the run, and that could be essential in this one. I'm expecting the Buccaneers to really try and ramp up their run game. So in terms of the Bucs, how do they attack in this game? I think it's going to be a case of mixing it up. Simply don't go to Mike Evans too often because you don't want Peterson to punish you. But I think the offensive line, the way they've been playing, they're going to have to be prepared to face some blitzes, because that's how I think the Cardinals attack this game. Jameis Winston has not been particularly effective or efficient against the blitz at this stage. And the Cardinals do like to do so. Now, it will expose that secondary, but that's what I feel like pressure is the way they're going to have to win. They're going to have to help out the offense. They're going to need some big plays on this side of the ball. The Buccaneers more than happy to help out and not send too many guys out on routes. So how effective that will necessarily be, I don't know. But a lot of this will just come down to Jameis Winston, how he deals with those blitzes. Going to need to be far more willing to throw those check downs on hot routes and do so effectively, because he did struggle with those shockingly last week. However, the other weapons, I think the two tight end sets are going to be effective in this one. Because I don't think this Cardinals team can afford to leave Deshaun Jackson one-on-one with corners that aren't Patrick Peterson. I think that's a big problem for them. On top of that, the guys on the inside, I don't think they can stick with Cameron Brate and OJ Howard, and I think Humphries will be able to have some success. If this team's blitzing, look for the Bucs to really attack them underneath and attack guys that are isolated. And I think with the general talent level of this Cardinals secondary, as long as Winston's putting the ball on the spot, I think they can have a lot of success. And because of the way the Cardinals play defensively, opportunities to get stuff after the catch will certainly be there. Expect to see a lot of the run as well this week. I think the Bucs, similarly to the Cardinals, they've been punting far too much, a lot of 3 and outs. And they'll be looking to try and get this Cardinals team on its back foot, get them gassed, especially if they're blitzing. You can maybe punish them with a couple of outside runs if you can get away from the blitz or get through that first level. and Doug Martin looked explosive against the Patriots. That could lead to an enormous amount of success. But I just feel like the Buccaneers have to go into this game prepared, not to look for the big play as often as they have been, willing to settle for hot routes, screens, that kind of thing, as I expect the blitz to be constant, and basically just take what's there, because when a team's blitzing as much as I expect the Cardinals to be, you get one-on-one matchups. Take the one-on-one matchups and make the most of them, and utilise these running backs effectively. If they can do that, and Jameis Winston can have a consistent game, and the kicker Patrick Murray can make kicks, I expect this team to put up a reasonable number of points, particularly considering I expect the Buccaneers to be very successful defensively. If you're the Cardinals, as I mentioned, blitz some more, but do it smartly. I don't think bring the house, but I think 5 or 6 guys need to be coming on most plays. You've got to try and get the Bucs' run game stopped, because I just think if you've got to account for both aspects with a fairly iffy group defensively, you've got to be able to force the opponent to be one-dimensional. James has struggled against the blitz. You've got to try and get some free rushers. Other than Chandler Jones, I'm not sure there's many guys that can win one-on-one matchups consistently. Peterson's just going to have to keep Mike Evans very, very quiet, particularly when it comes to the red zone, because that's where him and Cameron Brate are the 2 guys that Winston's looking for. How they match up with Cam Brate, I'm not sure. I like Tyrann Mathieu a lot, but he's not been particularly effective thus far this year. Branches has played well, but he's more of a run plugger. I expect to see some cover 3 type shells that these blitzers will be coming from, trying not to get stuff deep, and this is why I think the middle of the field will be wide open for the Buccaneers. But if they can get the Bucs one-dimensional, stop that run game, get a few big plays off of Jameis Winston, force some mistakes from him, then they can give their offense an opportunity to get some points this one. I expect them to give up some points. I think they'll give up some big plays, but if they can get some of their own in return, then that will give the Cardinals a shot. However, I'm very confident in the Buccaneers in this one. I think they'll win this game pretty comfortably. I think this Cardinals team is in a pretty bad spot right now. They've not impressed me. Unless this offensive line can step up, I think it's going to be an incredibly long season for Cardinals fans. It's really disappointing because they're quite a likeable team, but I think the Bucs get back on track, and I just want to see a consistent game from them. So there you have it. Let us know what you think. Anything you feel might happen in this game, any approaches to it you think a team should take, give us a shout. Got the comment section below, the Cover Zero Facebook page. You can follow me on Twitter at Simon Conboy. Always happy to talk football. Check out some more episodes. There's plenty of reviews and previews coming up on the channel. Trying to rejig the game reviews a bit, get a bit more technical and structured with it. So hoping to have a few of them up after this week. Hopefully they'll be of a bit of a higher standard. And the podcast, we recorded it live yesterday. We had some technical issues. It didn't turn out great. So there's an episode of me basically doing what we would have covered next week. That'll be airing on Tuesday, and hopefully nothing will go wrong. Issues with doing stuff live, it turns out it can go wrong. But check them out. If you'd like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon, which will be updated at some point, I assure you. It'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate people checking the show out. It's been a pleasure as always. Have a great evening, and go Bucs.